Today I decided to go to the beach here in Santubong in Kuching, Malaysia. And here, as you can see, back in the days, I was a hustler. I was building my first internet-based business, and back then, we were creating Google Ads and sites. And back then, if you compare it to today, it's a completely different world today, when compared to 12 years ago. It just changed a whole lot. The people who are floating around Southeast Asia today, we're talking about influencers, Instagram influencers, YouTube influencers. Those people didn't exist back then. Do Malaysians speak English or not? I think the average Malaysian, especially the younger generations, they speak English fluently. So I think that's a definite advantage. And back then it was actually more fun because there was way fewer tourists in Asia than you see today. But if you want to open up a company in Malaysia, and it doesn't matter where you are originally from, whether you are North American, whether you are European, whether you are from Latin America, Africa, doesn't matter if you are from any country, right? I don't think there's any restrictions with the exception of Israel. So that means that you can incorporate a company in Malaysia, own 100%. Back in the days, there was very few, if any, training material available on how to do this. You had to figure it out yourself, and that was so exciting. Next, networking. Here are issue 3 points. I think places like Penang, Kuala Lumpur are fantastic places to network. There are plenty of meetup groups. There are plenty of entrepreneurs. There are plenty of businessmen, plenty of crypto investors, right? Innovative minds are hanging out in Malaysia these days. I think it's one of the better countries in Southeast Asia. And back then, like I told you, there was very few, if any, YouTubers who were selling the digital marketing lifestyle dream. Now they call it digital nomad dream. Back then it was the internet marketing dream. That's what it was 12 years ago, 10 years ago. Today they call it the digital nomad lifestyle. The term changed. It was different 10, 12 years ago when I started to make a lot of money. It was so much fun because, there was few people doing it. Like maybe 1/10 or 1/5 of the people who are doing it today. Something like that. I think Malaysia is also great for opening a company for a number of reasons. First of all, you as a foreigner, you can own 100% of a Malaysian company. Something that is not possible in Thailand unless you are an American citizen. Quit my job and I moved back into my parents' home, and that just had that great vision of really hustling hard because I had the vision, and that vision was not given to me by somebody who I watched on YouTube like it is today. A lot of people go on YouTube and like, oh, it's so great, I want to live in Kuala Lumpur. Well, back then I didn't do that. I didn't watch YouTube videos on that. I created these visions myself. I had a vision board at home and I put the photos of the places where I wanted to live on that vision board because that's how I created the desire for work, hunger, vision, ambition, whatever you want to call it. But Malaysia is great and Kuala Lumpur is a fantastic place, so there's nothing bad to be said about Kuala Lumpur. It's a great place where entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs from all over the world meet for events, for networking, for grouping, right, for hanging out. There are many Western entrepreneurs in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia right now who want to build a business, and so they want to find a place where they have access to a pool of talented entrepreneurs, experienced business owners. They want to be around like-minded individuals like in the crypto community or potentially digital marketing. Malaysia got these communities in Kuala Lumpur. They do exist. So Kuala Lumpur is great because it's just a place where people fly in to get access to all these different groups of people. It's great for that. Sometimes I've worked for 2 days straight and literally fell asleep on my computer for a couple of hours like this. Had the saliva dropping out my mouth because I was so tired, I was so exhausted. But that was necessary back then because I had that brilliant vision of living the tropical beach lifestyle in Southeast Asia, and I achieved it. Now, from a visa perspective, what is available to you? And there is the Malaysia Tech Entrepreneur Program, which you can qualify for if you have an innovative business idea in one of the categories that Malaysia is looking to get people for. And we're talking about innovative business ideas here. So anything blockchain related, anything green energy related, anything that has to do with like artificial intelligence. So if you have an innovative business idea, you may qualify for the Malaysia Tech Entrepreneur Program. That would be one option. And I'll never forget the people I worked with back then. I thank them a whole lot. I'm very grateful that I met these people. And one guy I met, he was living in Kuching, Malaysia. I was also looking at the Philippines. I was always interested in the Philippines. Very warm people, friendly people, beautiful beaches, tropical weather. That's what I was looking for. But then my friend, my business partner told me, hey, yeah, maybe go to the Philippines later. Why don't you come over to Kuching, Malaysia? We can have a good time here. I have a house here. We can share the house, pay some rent, and we get started. Back then, I didn't really have that much money. Of course, you could also live in Malaysia on a tourist visa, so that is an option. However, if we define the word live, then we're typically talking about a longer period of time. And the question is whether you want to risk doing visa runs or not. Citizens of many countries get a 90-day visa for Malaysia, a tourist visa, which is not extendable in most cases, meaning you would have to leave the country and return to receive another 90 days. And so if you want to move to a city, let's say you're a startup entrepreneur and you want to move to a city because you want to live there permanently, right? Then living there on a tourist visa may not be the best option for you. And that's why I recommend looking into a long-term visa solution. I had a good day. I sold one of my websites. I had a 4-figure day, and that was big back then. It wasn't so easy to make that kind of money back then because there was fewer opportunities. There were still a lot of opportunities, but it was more difficult to make money than it is today. The cost of living in Malaysia certainly plays a big role because there are many great startup entrepreneur cities across the globe, yet there aren't that many that offer the reasonable cost of living that you can enjoy when living in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And it's very possible to live in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia on as little as $1,500 a month. You won't have a lavish lifestyle, but $1,500 or more, let's say $1,500 to $2,000 a month, gets you a life in Malaysia. Unlike other places where $2,000 wouldn't even get you an apartment, with that money you can actually live a quite good life in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So you could definitely make that happen with, let's say, a low Western income. It would definitely be possible. And if you have even greater spending power, let's say you have an income of $5,000 to $10,000 a month, then of course you could have a phenomenal life in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. You can live pretty well on anything more than $5,000 a month. It would be a really good lifestyle. So he was like, yeah, why don't you come over? It would be a lot of fun. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's not really what I had planned because I was eyeing the Philippines back then. So I kind of changed my direction quite a bit. But I'm like, well, Malaysia, Philippines, neighboring countries, so why not? Why not go there, try it out, maybe even like it more than the Philippines. I didn't know either of the place back then, had never taken a long distance flight, had never been to Asia. So I was like, yeah, sure, dude, let's give it a shot, let's do it. Basically, there's 2 types of visas. The new entrepreneur visa, which is valid for 1 year, and the established entrepreneur visa, which is valid for 5 years. Both visas can be renewed once the next steps are completed. What do I mean by the next steps? So you need to go to Malaysia. If you get the 1-year visa, you need to start a business. You need to set up the business within 1 year so you can renew your visa. And the 5-year established entrepreneur visa can be renewed as well. So he invited me over. It was just brilliant. Arrived in Kuching. It was so much fun. There was literally nobody there that we met who did what we did back then. Nobody was doing internet marketing. We met a couple of expats who lived there, mainly retirees. Some of them already had the Malaysia My Second Home program back then, but we hadn't met a single person who was also working online doing what we were doing back then. Not one person, not one person. Let's have a look at the requirements. To get approved for either of these options, you need to create a business pitch deck, which can be a PDF or in form of videos. I think actually a PDF is a must, but if you also want to create a video pitch deck, then that would be a bonus. So you want to explain the business model, how you anticipate to reach the market, what kind of products and services you are looking to sell with the Malaysian company. You also want to tell them a little bit about the competition and how you intend to capture the market. What will you use in terms of marketing strategies? Who will you work with? How many people will you hire? What do you expect in terms of sales and volume? All of this must be included in the business pitch deck presentation. And that's why I have quite often chosen places that are not so touristy. I don't like places where foreigners go hike up the prices. First of all, it's not authentic. Secondly, it's more expensive. And thirdly, you're not so unique there. You don't have the same cards. You're not dealt the same hand. There's also a financial requirement which is nowhere near as high as what you need to provide now for the Malaysia My Second Home program. And it looks like this. For the new entrepreneur, you need to provide bank statements from the past 3 months proving at least 50,000 ringgit in balance. Same goes for the established entrepreneur. You are required to have a minimum account balance of 50,000 ringgit. A criminal record certificate is required for both visas. You also need a personal bond agreement with an MTEP, which stands for Malaysia Tech Entrepreneur, recognized partner, so a digital hub, co-working space. And the established entrepreneur needs a declaration from a Malaysian sponsor. There's a catch. A new entrepreneur cannot bring a spouse to Malaysia with the new entrepreneur visa. This may be possible at a later point once the business has been set up. Now, when we lived in Kuching, Malaysia, it was fun, you know. The women there, they talked to us like, wow, hey, where are you from? And it's like, wow, that's great. You know, we've never met any person from that country. And we were like, well, that's really good for us, you know. Supply and demand, my friends. You know, if you go to a place where there's very little supply and where you are in demand, it's just so much easier. You could also remain in the country by obtaining a student visa. I get it, if you're in your 50s or 60s and you're now thinking, well, should I go back to school in order to stay in the country? Well, I don't think that this is a great option for an entrepreneur or someone who is already retired, not looking to go back to university just to get a visa. Some people may be interested in obtaining further education and even obtaining a degree, and so going back to school may not be as bad as it sounds. In order to qualify for a student visa, you're going to need a letter from an institution stating the exact program you're looking to start. You need to fill out the student visa application form, provide your academic records, show evidence of security and personal bond, and you also need to provide a health certificate. And now you hear people, you know, I heard a lot of people commenting sometimes, you know, they were talking about, well, Malaysia is not good for dating. Well, those people don't know Malaysia. They only know West Malaysia, and only certain parts of West Malaysia. They haven't really lived in the country. They haven't really experienced the real Malaysia. On the positive side, I think each of these visas is more affordable than the Malaysia My Second Home visa, and it allows you to remain in the country until you've found another solution. Now, Kuala Lumpur is not the real Malaysia. I'm sorry, it's not. The real Malaysia, the authentic, is the smaller cities. If you haven't been there, then you haven't really lived in Malaysia. If you're only stuck at KLCC, or Bukit Bintang, maybe you don't know the country so well. You know, if you have been already to other places, if you have been to smaller cities, you know, maybe you know the country a bit better. On the negative, this is not a one-size-fits-all solution. As you can see, each of these visas solves a very unique issue. So unless you're looking to start a business, go back to school, or marry a Malaysian, you're probably going to need to find another option. And you really have to consider if you want to commit to something that you don't want to do. I mean, it's okay doing it for maybe a year or 2 years, but doing this for the rest of your life is a whole other story. But anyway, it was just so much fun going there. You know, it was so much fun, and how it felt, it was so authentic, so unique. It was definitely the best decision of my life that I can remember that I moved there. It was just fantastic. Now the question is, would I move there again? And what conditions need to apply? I'd say that, yes, I'd move there again, but the visa situation has changed. So back then, you know, you could just be there on a tourist visa. Nobody really cared, and nobody really asked you too many questions. Nowadays, it's going to be difficult to do that because things have changed, and certain places have been flooded by Westerners, Western tourists, Western digital nomads. I'd still do it now, but I'd pick the places a lot more carefully. So I'd recommend, just if you want the authentic experience, just go to places where there's fewer tourists. It's going to be cheaper. You're going to be more unique, and you just get more value. But if you want it very Americanized, very modernized, and you have difficulties adjusting, maybe you should consider going to a more westernized area. It really all depends on you and your willingness to adapt. Where are you located in the world today, and would you live in Southeast Asia? If yes, what country would you live in? Leave a comment below and let us know. Subscribe now and turn on alerts to never miss any of my future nomadism, dating, and business advice videos. Thank you for watching.